So you're thinking about moving to Delaware, more specifically Newark, Delaware, and yes, it is Newark, not Newark. Well, you're in the right place because in this video, I'm actually going to talk about a little bit of what living in Newark is like and then go over some of the pros and cons. And after watching the video, you'll know whether or not Newark is the right city for you or not. My name is Windom, and I help people buy and sell homes here in Delaware. I've lived here my entire life, and on this channel, I talk about what it's like living here in Delaware. And if you're potentially thinking about buying or selling a home in Delaware, I love to have a conversation and see how I can help. So I'll put my info on screen right now in the description below. So I get clients reaching out to me all the time and they'll say, hey, I'm moving to Delaware and I'm thinking about moving to Newark. How's the area? What it's like? And so this is kind of like what I tell them. So first off, Newark is located in Newcastle County, which is our northernmost county, and it's located more so on the west side of the state, closer to Maryland. And Newark is actually the third biggest city in Delaware population wise. It's about 30,000 residents. It has a median home price of about $345,000, and the overall feel is very suburban, and overall it's kind of more so of a college town. So the first pro that I have here is going to definitely have to be walkability. Now, I know if you watch some of my other videos, I'm always talking about how Delaware itself isn't very walkable, but Newark is one of the few cities where I think you could probably manage without a car. Now, because Newark is primarily a college town, Newark and the state of Delaware itself kind of beefs up the public transportation in the area because there is so many college students that potentially don't have a car and need to get around. So in Newark, you'll tend to see that our public transportation, our bus system, DART, it actually has a lot more routes in the area. It comes a lot more frequently, and you'll also see a lot more of the ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft and all those other ones have a pretty decent presence in Newark just because they know there are going to be a lot of people who are going to use the service so they can make money. Also, just because Newark's population is so big, out of necessity, there are a lot of the basic, essential necessities that you need all over Newark just because it has to serve a bigger population. So chances are there's going to be a grocery store or a department store or a clothing store or something very close to you, and chances are it may be in walking distance. Now, before you say, Brandon, well, I've seen some of your other videos and you talked about Newark and you said it only had a walkability score of 42. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I lived in Newark for about 7 or 8 years and we didn't have a car some of those times. We was po, and we got around just fine. Now, there are some areas in Newark that are out in the middle of nowhere, and it may have a Newark zip code, but any local or anyone who's from here will tell you like, yeah, it says Newark, but that ain't Newark. Now, the second pro here is that Newark is very family friendly. Newark has a strong sense of community, and the city of Newark itself puts a very big emphasis on trying to foster that environment that everyone feels like they're a part of the community. Newark holds tons of community events, almost it seems like every month all throughout the year. They actually have a calendar that you can check out on newarkde.gov that'll show all the upcoming events. And these can range from things like Easter egg hunts for the kids in April, all the way to, fun runs, 5Ks. And once a year, they actually have Newark Community Day. And on that day, they actually encourage local businesses, vendors, organizations, whoever, to come out and kind of showcase their products to the local Newark residents. And it's honestly a whole lot of fun that brings that sense of community all together. I mean, they'll have food vendors, they'll be doing other events that the city will put together, and it just feels like a very tight-knit community. I mean, they even have local events like Newark's Night Out, to where as though you can interact with the local law enforcement and kind of just talk to them and ask them whatever you want, and you can have some of that dialogue with them. And I mean, the list goes on and on. You can, go to the site and see what other events they have, but Newark really puts an emphasis on trying to foster that feeling of community pride. Since Newark is a bigger city, just goes without saying that there are a lot more families that live there. And because of that, there is really no shortage of family fun activities to do in Newark. You have the Urban Air Adventure Park, you have, Main Event, you have the Christiana Mall, if the kids are a little bit older and they want to go do some shopping, or just go to the movie theater. And if you think your kids kids are spending too much time on the phone and they need to get outdoors, Newark is great for that as well. Newark has a ton of outdoor spaces. It has over 35 parks, 17 walking trails, and 650 acres of open parkland. Newark is also home to White Clay Creek State Park, but honestly, I feel like there's a park like every couple of miles in Newark. I remember, growing up and just going from park to go, either hang out with my friends, go play basketball or football, or just ride our bikes around, the different communities. And there was always open spaces like everywhere. Now, just to show that it wasn't just nostalgia, I actually have a map here, and wherever you see the trees at, that means there's a park there. And as you can see, they're everywhere in Newark. Now, the third pro is our healthcare. Newark is home to one of our biggest hospital systems, if not our biggest hospital system, in the Christiana Hospital. It's actually our only adult level 1 trauma center in Delaware, meaning that it can handle almost any type of emergency situation. It has the main hospital where, they do surgery and everything else, as well as satellite clinics kind of sprinkled all throughout Newark and other parts in Delaware. And they specialize in all different types of areas such as cardiovascular health, fertility, birthing, and you have the Helen F. Graham Cancer Center. And like I said before, since Newark is home to so many people, there's a bunch of walk-in clinics for, acute situations, as well as, standalone ER departments. And a lot of general practice doctors actually decide to set up shop in Newark as well because they know there's a need for it and they're going to be able to get patients. Now, everything that glitters ain't gold. Newark has its fair share of problems, so let's jump into the cons. The next con is traffic and crowding. Now, I couldn't do a video without talking about traffic. Come on, man, it's kind of my thing. But it's not the type of traffic you think. It's actually pedestrian traffic. It being a college town, there is a lot of people walking around on foot. And I hate to sound like the grumpy old man, but these kids just don't get off their phones. They just don't pay any attention to what they're doing, and they will dart out in front of your car with reckless abandonment and no regards for their own safety whatsoever. And then they will have the audacity to look at you like you did something wrong. You definitely have to be on high alert because frankly, it's unbelievable sometimes how bold they are with just walking into the road. Now, don't worry, there'll definitely be some regular traffic as well, especially when you get closer to the University of Delaware campus or if they're having any type of events. But overall, it's pretty manageable, but you definitely want to be on high alert when you're driving in Newark. So the next con here is going to be cost of living. Now, the overall cost of living in Delaware is pretty reasonable, and Newark's no exception. But when you're looking at Newark in comparison to the rest of Delaware, Newark can be a little bit higher than the rest of Delaware. And honestly, it's just because of the population and the demand for services. It's all simple economics when you break it down. When you have more demand and less supply, then obviously you're going to have higher prices. Since Newark has so many people, goods and services tend to be a little bit higher in Newark than they would be in other parts of Delaware. Now, while the median home price in Newark may only be $345,000, that's really only going to get you probably a smaller home and more than likely probably a townhome. And that's just because Newark is a little bit more populated, so they tend to, kind of put people closer together. Townhouses are just more cost effective and efficient. So if you are a bigger family or if you're looking for something a little bit bigger, like maybe a 4-bed, 2.5 bath, 2,000 square feet with a nice size yard, chances are you're going to pay a premium for it, and it's probably going to be a bit more competitive just because of the scarcity of homes in Newark and because of the desirability of Newark itself. Now, another con is going to be employment opportunities. Newark is a bigger city, but its main employment sectors are going to be education, obviously because of the University of Delaware, and then healthcare because of the Christiana Hospital and all its satellite clinics that are around. But other than those two, there are a lot of different career opportunities in Newark. But there's not very many career opportunities there, if that makes sense. There's a bunch of jobs as far as entry level, retail or customer service positions. But when it comes to professional career type positions, if it's not in that education field or perhaps the healthcare field, they tend to be a few and far between in Newark. But with the recent influx of a lot of remote opportunities and jobs, that becomes less of an issue, but it is something to keep in mind. And another con is actually allergies. Now, this may not be a big deal, and I don't know if it's specific to Newark or not, but one thing I have had clients tell me from moving here to Delaware and when they get to Newark or wherever they're going is that they didn't have allergies before, but now they develop them and sometimes it can be unbearable. So just a heads up that you may want to keep that Claritin or Zyrtec close by when you're moving here to Delaware. Speaking of moving, I actually made a video discussing some of the first things you should do when planning your move to Delaware, and I'll put that video right here.